All right, have you ever been sitting in a machine and you're like, man, this machine is tight as hell. This casino probably tightened the slots for the weekend. Is that actually what's going on, or is there something completely different that we are all missing? The answer is yes. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Gamble Smart channel. Hope you guys are doing well out there. We are here to help educate you to become better, smarter, and more knowledgeable gamblers, but you have to make the decision whether you want to gamble or not, okay? If you don't have expendable cash, you should not be walking inside of a casino. This video is not for you. Time to click off and go watch something else. But if you are a gambler and you've committed to money that you can safely afford to lose, this video might end up helping you in a lot of our other videos as well. So we would appreciate a subscription and a thumbs up if you enjoy this kind of content. All right, let's get into today's topic, and that is all about RTP. Is this something that you can actually feel? Can you play a machine and detect what the RTP setting is on that machine? And a lot of us feel this way. In fact, most of us in the industry feel this way, that we can do something. Testing a machine, 5 spins, 100 spins, 1,000 spins, we can tell the RTP has been set really low. But is that actually what is going on? And you know, I've always felt this just because I understand the math behind the slot machines, that this isn't something that you can detect. And we've done some experiments in the past on, you know, doing a machine for 200 spins at different payback percentages, kind of our own little, small little thing. I cannot simulate thousands of people playing, you know, things like that. But the University of Las Vegas actually did. And this study is fantastic. And if you want to read the full thing, I put a link in the description below where you guys can check it out. So what did they do exactly? So they set up a simulation with 10,000 slot players and then set up machines from anywhere from 87% all the way up to 97%. I think 4 different increments, like 87, 89, 93, and 97, somewhere in that. And basically ask them if they can detect the difference between the low payback percentage and the high payback percentage. And over 90% were unable to do so. That's 9,000 out of the 10,000 people were unable to figure out what the low-paying machine was and what the high-paying machine was. And what's fascinating about this is that you would think a machine, I mean, it's a massive difference between 87% and 97%. You would think that even over 500 or 1,000, I think they did up to 3,000 spins, people still could not pick the right one that was set low opposed to the one that was set high. And the reason is because the math behind the game itself, the RTP, is a very long-term play. This isn't something that you would be able to feel out in any kind of short-term session. You would have to do hundreds of thousands up to 1 million spins on a specific machine to make any kind of determination on what the RTP setting is on that machine. So what is it then? Then there is something, because we have all noticed, myself included, we have all noticed streaks of losing and streaks of winning. What is actually going on there? Well, that is randomness at play, okay? That is just what happens when you have a large sample size and a program that is meant to last over millions of spins. A lot can happen in the short term, and that is the variance. And the more extreme that the variance is, which is the volatility of the game, the bigger jumps that you have, the roller coaster effect of a lot of losing spins, a lot of dead bonuses, a lot of no bonuses, no progressives, you know, just a lot of deadness. The higher volatility, the more variance that the game programming has, the more likely you're going to feel that. And that is what you're actually feeling. You're not feeling the RTP. You're feeling the volatility or the variance of the game design itself. And so here's the thing. A lot of us, and this isn't, you know, an attack on anybody, because this is just how we are. As human beings, randomness is a concept that we all struggle with unless you go through a lot of studying to try to understand it. It's just not something we're good at. We always try to explain something that we're not good at by blaming it on something else or looking for something else. And the important thing to remember is that correlation does not equal causation. And what that essentially means is just because you've witnessed something doesn't mean that explains what is actually going on. And so I encourage you guys to keep an open mind with stuff like this. So whenever you do sit at a machine, maybe it's one that you've played over the last decade or so, and you go in there sometimes and you just feel like it's not hitting. The casino most likely did not change the RTP on that machine. And even if they did, they maybe only dropped it or raised it a couple of percent. Again, something you're not going to notice in the short term. But depending on the volatility of that game, you are going to have streaks of hot and coldness. And I'm using those in quotes because it's not intentionally programmed to be that way, but that stuff does happen in randomness. A fun experiment to kind of simplify this is take a coin and flip it 20 times. How many times did you end up with heads, and how many times did you end up with tails? Did you end up with 10 heads and 10 tails? Likely not. It's possible, but likely not. But the odds are 50-50, so why not? It's because it's such a short sample size, and that's exactly how slot machines play out. It takes a very long time for the math program, the probability program, to reach its goal of playing out all of these different probabilities. It takes time. So why is this kind of important to understand? And here's what I think, and let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with me. I think the casinos know that RTP is not something that you can feel, and so I think that is why it's steadily getting worse year after year. Because as long as they slowly change it, it's a big opportunity for them. It's a massive increase. Even a 0.1% increase of RTP over all of the different millions of slot machines that they may have under their control is a significant increase in their profitability, but not something players would notice. So that would tend to mean that they would continue to increase the RTP year over year. As long as they don't do it substantially and stay within the averages of everybody else around them, then they can get away with it. But what is kind of puzzling to me is that they insist on putting the high volatility games in there, because that is something that you absolutely can feel. And I think if anything is going to detract people from playing in a casino, it's going to be the volatility of the game. I mean, how many times have you seen this where we've heard people say, never play an Aria, it's tight as hell. Yeah, but if you go in there and play a high volatility game and lose, you may feel that way. You may feel, well, Aria is the tightest casino on the strip. Yeah, but what game did you play? Did you play something that was high in volatility? Well, if that's the case, that is actually what happened, okay? And so it's puzzling to me that they would put all these high volatility games in there, because if anything's going to detract people from playing at a specific casino, it's going to be that. Even though people feel that it is the RTP, it actually isn't. It's the volatility of the game. So what does all this really mean? And the reason I looked up this study is because I think a lot of us we're always trying to say RTP matters, and it does in the long term. Don't get me wrong. If you look at two different casinos and you knew what their average RTP is, and in a lot of states you can actually look this information up, and you see one that is averaging around 90% and one that is averaging around 93%, over time it is definitely better to go to the one that is at 93%. But in your individual sessions, you cannot expect a 3% increase when you're playing. You're not going to notice or expect that in the short term. But if you're a local and you have the choice between those two casinos, yes, absolutely, go play at the one that's higher on average. But the thing is, we don't know. And we also don't know inside of the casino which particular machines are set low and which particular machines are set high. We can make a lot of assumptions based on denominations and things like that. But unless it's published, we don't know exactly what they're set to. I know it's exhausting. I know I said a lot of stuff there, but Here's the takeaway, I think, for this thing is that stop worrying about RTP. Unless you really know what it's set at, stop worrying about it. Worry more about the volatility, something that you can actually feel in the short term, and focus more on your bankroll than anything else. Stop trying to trick the machine. There is no certain set of spins that you can do to try to trick the machine or to try to understand the machine and find the winning combination. It's just simply not possible. Again, correlation does not equal causation. That means that whatever you think is going on or think that you did and you got a positive result for does not necessarily mean that is what the cause was. And in a lot of cases, it's not, and that's where a lot of these myths come from. So focus on those things. Look for the volatility of the game. And I know a lot of you ask us, how do you know the volatility of the game? Well, unfortunately, as always, the casino environment and manufacturers are not very public about this. Some are better than others. Shout out to Every and Ainsworth. I believe on their website they actually do put the volatility on their games, which I think is fantastic. And I hope other slot manufacturers will jump in and start doing that, because this is important information to understand the flow of your game. It's risk reward. We like playing the lower volatility because I don't like getting rinsed within 15 minutes of going to the casino. But if you're a riskier person, maybe those are the ones you should be playing. You know what I'm saying? All right, so hopefully you'll learn something. Read this if you want to. It gets very geeky. I apologize. But I think it's good to always back this stuff up. And if you think that you're going to be able to trick the machine, please stop thinking that. understand that you're up against a mathematical program that is unbiased towards you. There's nothing that you can really do except get lucky when you push that spin button and get a good RNG pool. That's it. All right, gamble smart, gamble safe. We love you guys. Take care. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.